Okay, so Democrats are freaking out about election 2022 and, by the way, election 2024. The reason is their standard bearer can't bear a standard. Their standard bearer cannot even bear a brick at this point, like can't carry a brick. Their standard bearer might actually have almost been eaten by a bear yesterday. He wandered into the woods. He was on the White House lawn, and he just starts doing what he does, man. He's just wandering. Yeah, I'm going to go see the birds, Jill. I'll see you later. Which way am I supposed to go? Oh, a black bird.
Thank you, Mr. Haney?
Well, bye. If you can't see this, he literally is just wandering into the trees. Hey, where am I going? And they're like, oh, you should go this way. He's like, oh, okay, are you sure? Maybe that way? No, this way, that way. All around. Where am I? Is there pudding? Matlock is on. Let's go. And Jill is like, Joe, just come this way, Joe. So there's the actual president of the United States wearing the long green coat next to Joe Biden. So that's exciting stuff. Meanwhile, Joe Biden can no longer pronounce Pramila Jayapal's name. So that's good. The mashed potatoes are spilling out of his mouth at an increasing rate.
Well, Raj, I want to thank you for your leadership. And two other members who couldn't be here but send their greetings. They are both very good friends and wanted to be here. Pramila, wait.
I just don't know their names.
Pramila Jayapal and Ami Bera wanted to be here.
My two very good friends. I don't know their names. One of them is Prame Pat. My favorite part is where he has to reset himself by pushing his upper front teeth. That's a thing that actually happens in this video, folks. Again, if you can't watch, you're missing half the fun because or half the horror, depending on how much you love the country, because it's really bad. Joe Biden, literally in the middle of that clip, because he couldn't pronounce Pramila Jayapal's name, stops himself, forces his dentures back in or something. Like, go back for a second to that. This is not a good look. Now, there it is. Ay. What? Oh, goodness. Yeah, that is some bad stuff. By the way, apparently Joe Biden is going to be also pursuing gun control by making sure there are no more than 8 bullets in a round. He said that the other day. 8 bullets in a round. Now, you may be saying to yourself, wait a second. Isn't there only 1 bullet in a round? In fact, isn't that what a round is? Well, wrong you are. It turns out that there are 8 bullets in a round, sometimes 13 bullets in a round, sometimes 1 million bullets in a round, according to Joe Biden, gun expert, who has suggested in the past shooting it through the door if somebody is on the other side who you don't know who it is, and or blasting a shotgun into the air to warn people off like you're living in an 1877 Western. Here is Joe Biden on guns.
My legislation says there can be no more than 8 bullets in a round, okay?
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Okay. Meanwhile, Joe Biden says, you know what? I'm really worried that if you elect the Republicans, they are going to crash the economy. I have some bad news, Joe. I have some very, very bad news about crashing the economy and the status of our economy right now. Again, it must be wonderful to be Joe Biden because every morning somebody wakes you up and tells you you're president. But at some point, somebody should wake him up and tell him that he wrecked the economy. Here's Joe Biden.
If you're worried about the economy, you need to know this. The Republican leadership in Congress has made it clear. They will crash the economy next year by threatening the full faith and credit of the United States for the first time in our history, putting the United States in default unless we yield to their demand to cut Social Security and Medicare. You heard that one, right? You all heard them say that. That's what they're saying. Let me be really clear. I will not yield.
Oh, no. Oh, no. I hate when he leans into the microphone. It's so creepy. Treats that microphone like it's a 12-year-old girl's hair. Let me be clear. I will not yield. Joe, you're scaring all the children. It's bad. By the way, what he's actually talking about there is that Republicans have said that they might not raise the debt ceiling again unless you get your spending under control. Well, since no one has ever gotten their spending under control, you know what you could do? You could actually get your spending under control. This dude likes to brag a lot about bringing down the deficit. By bringing down the deficit, he means he has spent more money than any human being who has ever lived on planet Earth by a whopping margin. And yet, he brought it down slightly from last year when we blew more money into the economy than at any time because of COVID. That's his case. But he's a fiscal conservative. But if you ask him to be fiscally conservative, then you're shutting down the economy and you're going to ruin everything. Karine Jean-Pierre, worst White House press secretary in American history. She was out there explaining that Joe Biden has actually lowered your costs, man. Joe Biden is making your life better and cheaper, which is weird since everything is way more expensive. That is the nature of inflation.
So you mentioned the St. Louis shooting, and the president just a little while ago was talking about how he'd like to pass an assault weapons ban. What's the way forward if the Democrats don't control the House?
His message to Americans is there's a choice. There is going to be a choice that Americans are going to have to make without me getting into elections or getting into politics from here. But it's very clear. If you think about what Democrats want to do, if you think about what congressional Democrats and this president have already done, lower costs, if you think about what we're doing with our economic policies, creating jobs, making an economy that doesn't leave anybody behind, but builds it from the bottom up and the middle out, that is so incredibly important. And what congressional Republicans want to do is take that all away.
She is just a giant bumper sticker machine, is she not? Pretty amazing stuff. None of that's true, by the way. He gave us low costs. And Republicans want to take away the low costs. Where are the low costs, lady? Like at some point, you might want to show them to us. By the way that Joe Biden has attempted to lower costs when it comes to gas, for example, is just by depleting the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to levels that we have not seen. That is not what the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is for. You're not supposed to lower the gas prices just because you have a bit of a political problem at home. It's supposed to be for when people literally cannot get gas, which is not the problem in the United States. In fact, the Saudi energy minister came out today and said people are depleting their emergency stocks and using them to manipulate the market when their own original purpose was to alleviate supply shortages. Yup. The Saudis hitting that one on the head because Joe Biden basically engaged in corruption by asking the Saudis to increase oil supply just before the election. It's okay when Joe Biden does it, guys. And then he threatened them. Totally okay when he does that. If Donald Trump calls up the president of Ukraine and he says, I want you guys to investigate Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, and then he threatens to remove military support. That was the allegation against him. At its most grave, that was the allegation against him. That's impeachable. If Joe Biden does it openly to the Saudis, we're all supposed to nod and grin and pretend that it's not any sort of a problem at all. And then he taps the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, which again is a misuse of that reserve. All of this is because he's so great at this. He's great at this. Meanwhile, even Janet Yellen is saying, guys, inflation may not have peaked. Inflation may still be going up. That's a problem, guys. If you're trying to make the case that Joe Biden should remain in office because he is great at fighting inflation by spending $1.4 trillion on an Inflation Reduction Act that doesn't reduce inflation, this is a problem when your own Treasury Secretary is saying this.
It's not over. She can only do so much, but she talked about the Fed. Watch this.
I have confidence that inflation will come down over the next year or two. So I believe that what they're doing will work.
Do you believe it's peaked?
So I'm not positive. I don't want to forecast month by month inflation numbers. The most recent data suggests we still have inflation that's unacceptably high, but there are good indications earlier in the pipeline that inflation will come down.
In a year or two, good luck with that as a presidential running message, by the way. If we hit 2024 and the inflation rates are still at 6%, Joe Biden, whoever succeeds Joe Biden, ain't getting reelected. It is just that simple. Alrighty, guys, the rest of the show is continuing right now. You're not going to want to miss it. We will be getting into Ted Cruz's appearance on The View with Ted Cruz. Plus, Dr. Marty Makary of Johns Hopkins University will be joining us to talk about everything COVID vax related, including whether the vax ought to be given to children. If you're not a member, click the link in the description and join us.